Hi, my name is Jovelis Vega, and today I'm going to be talking about Thomas Jefferson's presidency. Now, we all know Thomas Jefferson is a very important figure in U.S. history. He was a founding father, and he did many great things that contributed to today's government and society. Now, the man was more than qualified for the job as President of the United States. He had already done so much at such a young age. He was minister for France for a while. He was governor of Virginia. He was the vice president under John Adams, our second president, and he was Secretary of State. He also drafted and wrote the Declaration of Independence, which obviously we still, in the United States, we still use to this day. It's a very important document. And also that document also helped the separation of the 13 colonies in Great Britain. He also wrote the the Virginia Statute of Religious Freedom, which basically helped write the First Amendment and also paved way for separation of church and state. Let's get more into his presidency and election. He ran for president in the election of 1800. He ran against his really good friend John Adams. Now, John Adams and Thomas Jefferson, although they were good friends, they had opposing views. John Adams was more of what you would call a federalist. He believed in big government and the bending of the Constitution, meaning that you don't have to take the Constitution so seriously. And Thomas Jefferson was the complete opposite. He was a big supporter of the Constitution and a big supporter of small government, which basically was just another way of saying that he liked controlling the government's limitations. He didn't want the government to have total control, like how Great Britain was. So the results of the election were that he actually beat John Adams. However, he was in a tie against another Federalist named Aaron Burr. But what ended up happening is that tie went to the House of Representatives, and they ended up announcing Thomas Jefferson as the third president of the United States. So going into what he actually did in his presidency, he did a lot of good things. For example, he lowered and cut a lot of the taxes. He lowered and cut so many that it was just to the point where there was only one tax, and that was the importing tariff, which was just importing and exporting goods from different countries. He cut the nation's half in debt. He lowered he shrank the Navy and the military. And one of his biggest accomplishments that we all know of is the purchase of the Louisiana Territory. Now, when he was deciding to try and purchase the territory, he really only wanted a small chunk, which was New Orleans, because New Orleans was connected to the Mississippi River. There was ports there, and it would be easier for trading if he could buy that small territory. So what ended up happening was Napoleon actually offered him a deal. I believe the deal was 15 million, which I believe is 250 million in now currency, for the whole thing. And the whole territory spread up from the Gulf of Mexico to, I believe, the top, like the border of Canada, which was huge because that ended up doubling the size of the United States, which led the expedition of Lewis and Clark and Sacagawea, where they ended up heading westward just to see what was there. And it was a really good purchase, honestly. For all that land, he ended up getting the Rocky Mountains, the access to the Mississippi River and the Gulf of Mexico. So that was pretty great. One thing that wasn't so good for Thomas Jefferson's presidency was the embargo of 1807. Basically, the Brits were holding hostage and seizing American ships, and Thomas Jefferson really wanted to abolish international trading, not international trading, just international tariffs, I believe. So what he ended up doing was stopping all trade with everyone on the outside, all the other countries on the outside, as a retaliation towards the capturing of our ships and everything, which definitely failed because it really ended up hurting the economy, which, as we all know, is not a good thing. However, his presidency as a whole was very significant, and that really paved the way for further elections to really grow.